The galaxy had never seen anything like it. A law was passed that would forever alter the course of history. It wasn't a law passed by just one empire or one race, but by the entire Galactic Council, a group of the most powerful civilizations in the universe. The law was clear, simple, and yet incredibly terrifying. Humans were no longer allowed to participate in warfare. It was a shocking decision, one that left many alien species questioning not just the motives behind it, but the very essence of the human race itself. The news spread like wildfire across the stars, with both fear and curiosity growing in its wake. For centuries, humans had been regarded as fierce fighters, never backing down in the face of overwhelming odds. But now, the Council had decided that humanity's power was too dangerous to be left unchecked. Mia, a young human diplomat, had always been proud of her people's history. Humans had been part of the galaxy's greatest battles, standing shoulder to shoulder with countless species in defense of peace. But the new law was a direct slap in the face, not just to the warriors, but to every human who had ever fought to protect the galaxy. As she sat in the council chamber, listening to the heated debates, she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of unease. There were whispers that this law was not simply a precautionary measure, but a reaction to something far darker. Mia could sense it. Something was being hidden. The reason behind the ban was being kept secret, and she had to find out why. Days passed, and Mia couldn't shake the feeling that the truth was out there, waiting to be uncovered. She began to dig through old records, speaking to anyone who might know more about the origins of the law. What she discovered was shocking. The Council had never openly stated why humans were so feared. Instead, they focused on the destructive potential humans could unleash in warfare. But there was something in the records, something about a human anomaly that had been buried deep within the data. It spoke of humans having an extraordinary ability to endure, a resilience that went beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't just about physical strength. It was something far more complex, something no one had ever truly understood. Mia's investigation led her to an old, retired war hero named Jackson. He had fought in galactic wars long before the ban, and he was one of the few who still remembered the old days. When Mia met him, she could see the years of battle written on his face, but there was also something else in his eyes, a sadness, a regret, as if he had seen too much. "You want to know why they fear us?" Jackson asked, his voice rough. "It's not just because we fight harder than anyone else. It's because we don't stop. We don't quit. We don't break." His words were like a punch to the gut. Mia didn't fully understand at first, but she knew there was something more to his words. Something much deeper. Jackson explained how humans had developed this incredible resilience over the centuries, not just in their bodies, but in their minds. They could endure pain that would cripple any other species. They could survive wounds that would be fatal to others. And when it came to warfare, humans had a unique advantage. They could fight for days, weeks, even months without rest, while other species would break under the strain. In past wars, humans had turned the tide of battles simply by outlasting their enemies, forcing entire fleets to surrender after exhausting their resources. Jackson's eyes darkened as he spoke of a time when humans had been the most feared warriors in the galaxy. But that fear had led to their downfall. The other species, unable to defeat humans in battle, had come together and created the ban, not because they feared the humans' ability to fight, but because they feared what would happen if humanity ever decided to unite as one. As Mia continued her investigation, she stumbled upon a hidden section of the Council archives. The files were encrypted, but after much effort, she managed to break through. What she found shook her to her core. The Council's fears weren't just about human soldiers. It was about the potential of the entire human race. The records described a time centuries ago, during a conflict known as the War of the Unyielding, when a human warrior named the Unyielding single-handedly decimated an entire alien alliance. The story told of how this warrior, using nothing but sheer will and an unbreakable body, had cut through waves of alien soldiers, forcing entire fleets to retreat. It was said that the unyielding strength was unmatched, and that no weapon in the galaxy could stop him. This event had terrified the Council. It was a turning point in galactic history. The other species had realized that humans, if ever united, could become an unstoppable force, not just in warfare, but in every aspect of life. They could conquer worlds, bend the laws of nature, and dominate the galaxy. The fear was not just of losing battles, but of losing control over the galaxy itself. Mia returned to the Council, her mind spinning with everything she had learned. She knew the truth now, but what would she do with it? The law had been passed, but it was clear that the fear of humanity was far from over. Some members of the Council had even suggested that the ban could be permanent, that humans could never again be allowed to fight. But Mia couldn't accept that. She knew her people were more than just warriors. They were survivors, dreamers, and builders. The galaxy needed to understand that humanity's strength didn't lie solely in their ability to fight, but in their spirit, their refusal to give up, no matter the odds. Mia stood before the Council, her heart pounding in her chest. She had the truth now, but how could she convince the galaxy to see it? The truth wasn't just about power. It was about balance, about understanding what humanity could bring to the table. The decision the Council had made wasn't just about keeping the galaxy safe from humans. It was about keeping the galaxy from changing forever. Maya took a deep breath and prepared to speak, knowing that the fate of her people and the galaxy hung in the balance. Mia's discovery of the truth about humanity's banned participation in warfare had only deepened her curiosity. She knew there was more to the story, something beyond the records and the whispers from the past. The mysterious human anomaly kept coming up, and with each new piece of information, the more Maya realized how little the galaxy understood about the true nature of humanity. As she walked through the corridors of the Galactic Council's archives, the weight of her mission felt heavier than ever. There was a secret hidden deep within the ancient files, a legacy left behind by humans long before the galaxy had become so fractured. Maya was determined to uncover it, knowing that the answers she sought could change everything. She had already discovered that humanity's remarkable resilience in battle had terrified the galaxy's ruling council. But what if the reason for the ban wasn't just fear of human warriors? What if humans weren't just dangerous because of their strength, but because of something far more ancient? Something that, if understood, could reshape the very foundation of galactic power. Maya found herself back at the dusty section of the archives, the one where no one had dared to venture in centuries. The records she had uncovered so far had hinted at a legacy far beyond the battlefield, but she needed to understand more. She needed to know why humans were considered such a threat, even after centuries of peace. As she sat at the old terminal, her fingers hovered over the keys. The files were encrypted in a way that only the highest-ranking officials in the galaxy could access. But Mia had learned the tricks of breaking into systems like this, and her determination was all-consuming. She typed in the necessary codes, each key press echoing in the quiet room. Then, finally, the screen blinked, and the files opened. But what she found was far more than she had expected. It was not just about the fear of humans in combat, but something far older, a biological anomaly that had been passed down from generation to generation. It was something that the galaxy had long tried to suppress, but the truth could not be hidden forever. The first file she opened detailed a series of experiments conducted on humans long before the formation of the Galactic Council. These experiments were not to study weapons or tactics, but to understand why humans were so different from every other species in the galaxy. It turned out that humans, from the very beginning, had something unique inside them. The human body possessed a genetic code that allowed for an extraordinary level of endurance, mental fortitude, and adaptability. These traits weren't just physical, but extended to the mind, making humans nearly immune to psychic control and manipulation. The more Mia read, the more the pieces started to fall into place. It wasn't just that humans were strong in battle, it was that they had the ability to survive anything. Any physical injury, any mental assault, any strain or pressure. Humans could endure it all, and they could recover faster than any other species. Mia's heart raced as she continued reading. The more she uncovered, the more she realized how little she knew about her own people. There were mentions of ancient humans who had. Their stamina was legendary, and their ability to think clearly in the face of overwhelming odds had turned the tide of wars. The files described stories of entire battalions of humans who, despite being outnumbered, had held their ground for days, weeks even, never retreating, never giving up. And what was even more incredible was that these traits were not just isolated to a few individuals, but seemed to be present in all of humanity. This genetic anomaly had made humans the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because of their weapons, but because of their sheer willpower and resilience. Mia's mind raced as she began to put the pieces together. This legacy of survival, of unyielding strength, had been passed down through generations, and it had been kept hidden by the Galactic Council for centuries. They had done everything they could to suppress the truth, fearing that if humanity ever realized the full extent of their potential, they would become an unstoppable force. The ban, Maya realized, was not just a precaution against human warriors in battle. It was a way to keep humanity from ever fully understanding the power they held inside themselves. The Council feared that, if humans ever woke up to their true nature, they would break free of the galactic order and reshape the galaxy in their image. Determined to find out more, Mia sought out an old historian, Dr. Alun, who had spent his life studying the ancient records of humanity. He was one of the few who had access to the oldest documents, the ones written before the Council's creation. Dr. Alun was a quiet man, his face lined with the years of research and contemplation. When Mia told him what she had discovered, he was initially hesitant to speak, but when he saw the determination in her eyes, he knew she had already uncovered the truth. "You found it, haven't you?" he asked quietly. "The legacy of humans, the one that was never meant to be remembered." His voice was filled with a mix of fear and reverence. "What you're looking for goes beyond anything the galaxy has ever known. The power you seek isn't just about fighting wars. It's about the ability to survive in a universe that doesn't want you to." Dr. Alun explained that the genetic anomaly within humans had been recognized as far back as the early days of human civilization. There had been whispers of it, even before humanity had taken its first steps into space. It was believed that this ability to endure, to survive no matter the cost, was not something that could be easily controlled. It was in their blood, their very essence. And this power had allowed humans to conquer challenges that no other species could even imagine. But there was a danger to this legacy. It had been passed down through countless generations, and each new generation of humans carried the potential to awaken it even more. And if they ever truly understood the depths of their strength, the galaxy would no longer be able to control them. As Maya listened to Dr. Alun's words, she began to realize the true magnitude of what the galaxy had done. The ban on humanity's participation in warfare wasn't just about keeping them from becoming soldiers. It was about keeping them from discovering their true potential. The galaxy had locked humanity away, afraid that if they ever understood their own power, they would rise up and change everything. The Council had done everything in its power to prevent that, suppressing the truth and keeping humanity in the dark. But Mia wasn't content to remain in the dark. She was determined to uncover the full truth, to understand what humanity could really become if they were allowed to tap into this ancient legacy. Mia's mind was racing. She had uncovered a secret that had been hidden for centuries, and now she had to decide what to do with it. The Council could never allow this information to be made public. If they did, the galaxy would be forced to face a new reality, one where humans were no longer just survivors, but rulers of their own destiny. And Mia knew that the future of the galaxy and of humanity depended on what she did next. The stars had always fascinated Lila. Growing up on the fringe of the galaxy, she had spent countless nights gazing at the heavens, wondering about the vastness of space and the secrets it held. Her people, the Siriths, were known for their curiosity, their thirst for knowledge, but they had always been careful not to push boundaries. The Galactic Council had strict laws, one of the most important being the ban on any interaction with humans. It wasn't just a suggestion. It was a law written into the very foundation of galactic peace. The humans, they said, were unpredictable, dangerous even, and their violent history made them a threat to the entire galaxy. But as Layla stood on the observation deck of her ship, looking at the distant planets, something inside her urged her to challenge that belief. What if the truth wasn't as simple as they made it out to be? What if humanity wasn't the monster the galaxy made them out to be? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sudden flash of a distress signal. Layla quickly glanced at the screen. An unknown ship was sending a distress call. It was drifting in the outer reaches of the sector, dangerously close to the asteroid belt. It had no identification, no fleet markings. It was a human vessel. Layla's heart skipped a beat. The Council had warned against coming across any human ships, and here was one, stranded in the void of space. The rules were clear. Report any human presence to the Council immediately. But something about the situation felt wrong. This wasn't the first time she had heard of a human ship in distress, and something told her this encounter was different. Layla was a navigator, trained to make decisions quickly, to assess risks, and to think in the moment. Yet, for the first time in her life, she felt unsure. There were no other ships around, and she was alone on the observation deck, her ship's crew busy with their tasks. She knew that if she reported this ship, it would be seized, its crew captured, and the ship itself would likely be destroyed. The humans would be contained, their presence erased from the galaxy once again. But there was a small part of her, a spark of rebellion, that urged her to ignore the law just this once. Maybe, just maybe, there was something worth learning here. Without a second thought, she took the helm and steered the ship towards the coordinates of the distress signal. As she approached the human vessel, Layla couldn't help but marvel at its design. It was unlike any other ship she had ever seen, primitive yet elegant, built for survival in a harsh environment. The ship was badly damaged, its hull scorched from a recent battle, but it was still intact, floating helplessly among the asteroids. Her heart raced as she prepared to make contact. She knew she was taking a huge risk, one that could cost her everything, but she couldn't turn back now. She hailed the ship, and after a few tense moments, a voice crackled through her communication system. It was rough, weary, but undeniably human. "This is the horizon," the voice said. "Is anyone out there? We need help." Layla hesitated, unsure of what to say. The voice on the other side was so human, so fragile, it felt almost unreal. She knew this was her chance, her opportunity to see the humans not as the enemy, but as real beings, struggling just like any other species. She swallowed her fear and responded. "This is the Celestial Wanderer," Layla said, her voice steady despite the nerves in her chest. "We've received your distress signal. We're coming aboard to assist." There was a long pause before the voice responded. "You're not supposed to help us. A council? They'll..." The voice trailed off, as if the speaker realized the danger they were in. Layla's pulse quickened, but she didn't let fear take hold. She initiated the docking procedure and maneuvered her ship alongside the human vessel. She had made up her mind. This encounter, forbidden as it was something she could never turn away from. As the airlock hissed open, Layla stepped cautiously into the darkened interior of the human ship. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and the faint hum of damaged systems was the only sound. She moved carefully, taking in her surroundings. The ship's interior was worn, evidence of years spent on the fringes of civilization. She passed through narrow hallways and into what appeared to be the command center. There, standing among the wreckage, was a man. His uniform was torn, his face bruised, but his eyes were sharp, focused, alive. He looked at her with a mixture of surprise and wariness, but there was also a flicker of gratitude in his gaze. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice hoarse but strong. You shouldn't be here. I could say the same about you, Layla replied, her voice quiet yet firm. The Galactic Council doesn't allow contact between our species, but I'm here to help. The man studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. We need your help, more than you know. We were attacked by the Rothians. They took most of my crew, and now we're stranded. We just need to get back home. Layla's mind raced. The Rothians were a vicious species, known for their ruthlessness. The human man wasn't lying. They were in real danger. She could sense the fear in his eyes, but also the resolve. He wasn't asking for much, just a chance to survive, to return home. It was in that moment that Layla understood. The humans weren't the monsters the galaxy made them out to be. They were survivors, just like her people. In fact, they had more in common than she had ever realized. Despite the danger, Layla decided to take a bold step. She would help him. She would break the law. For once, the rules didn't matter. The galaxy's fear of the humans had blinded everyone to the truth. The humans were not the enemy. They were simply another species, fighting to survive in a harsh universe. As Layla prepared to guide the human ship back to a safe location, she couldn't help but wonder how many other encounters like this had been hidden from the galaxy's knowledge. How many other humans had suffered in silence, branded as enemies simply because of their history, and how many more would fall victim to the same fate if the galaxy continued to live in fear. For the first time in her life, Layla felt the weight of the galaxy's laws and the consequences of her actions. But she also felt something else, a sense of hope, a belief that maybe, just maybe, there was a way to break free from the old fears that had held the galaxy in chains for so long. As the human ship's engines roared to life, Layla made a promise to herself. She would continue to question, to challenge the laws that divided them. This forbidden encounter was only the beginning. The galaxy had lived in fear for centuries. From the day humans made their first appearance on the galactic stage, they were feared and misunderstood. Their reputation for violence, their history of warfare, and their chaotic ways had made them the target of suspicion and hostility. Laws were enacted across every civilized system, banning any interaction with humans. They were kept at arm's length, their very presence considered a threat. Yet, no one truly understood them, not their culture, their motives, or their true nature. All that was known was the danger they represented. But for one young researcher, an unshakable curiosity burned deep inside. Lyra had grown up hearing the stories of the human threat, the tales passed down through her people for generations. She had always been fascinated by their mysterious history, and more than anything, she wanted to uncover the truth. What if everything the galaxy believed about humans was a lie? What if their true purpose wasn't one of destruction, but something much greater? Lyra was stationed on the fringe of the galaxy, where the laws against humans were particularly strict. The Galactic Council had placed surveillance networks in place, monitoring every corner of the sector for any signs of human presence. Lyra had always respected the law, even as it made her feel stifled. But as she worked in her quiet research station, studying the ancient texts and records of long-forgotten wars, she stumbled upon something that made her blood run cold. A document, hidden in the archives for decades, spoke of a human project. A project so powerful, so dangerous, that the entire galaxy had conspired to keep it a secret. It was the key to understanding everything. The document was incomplete, its edges worn and damaged, but the information it contained was enough to shake Lyra to her core. It described a human weapon, something capable of changing the balance of power in the galaxy. It wasn't a weapon of destruction, though. No, this was a weapon of truth. The document explained that humans had discovered the ability to reveal the deepest secrets of any species, its fears, its lies, its hidden motives. This weapon, known as the Truth Project, could expose the heart of any civilization, unraveling their darkest secrets. The truth, once unleashed, could not be hidden. Lyra's mind raced as she processed the information. The galaxy had kept humans away for centuries, not because they were dangerous, but because their ability to reveal the truth could topple entire empires. Suddenly, everything she had been taught, everything the galaxy believed, seemed like a carefully constructed lie. The Council didn't fear humans for their violence. They feared the truth they could uncover. The truth that, if revealed, would expose the corruption, the betrayal, and the hidden agendas of the powerful leaders who controlled the galaxy. It was then that Lyra realized the true extent of the conspiracy. The laws banning humans weren't there to protect the galaxy. They were there to protect the people in power. Lyra had no choice but to act. She couldn't sit by and let this truth be buried forever. She knew the risks. If she was caught, she would be branded a traitor. But the truth was too important, and if the galaxy's leaders had hidden it for so long, it was only because she made the decision to reach out to the humans, to find the remnants of the Truth Project. The document had mentioned a final location, a planet lost to time, where the last pieces of the project were said to be hidden. Lyra had no idea where it was, but the knowledge that it could change everything pushed her forward. She began scouring the old maps, searching for any clue that could point her in the right direction. Days turned into weeks, and just as she was beginning to lose hope, she found it, a set of coordinates buried deep in the archives. It led to an uncharted world, one that had been forgotten for centuries. Lyra wasted no time. She knew she was risking everything by traveling there, but she couldn't let fear stop her. She had to find the truth. With the coordinates in hand, she boarded her ship and set off towards the unknown. The journey was long and perilous, but Lyra's determination never wavered. As she approached the planet, her heart raced. She didn't know what she would find, but she had come too far to turn back now. When she finally landed, the planet was desolate. Its surface was scarred by ancient battles, its once great cities now in ruins. There was no sign of life, but Lyra knew the truth she was seeking lay buried here, beneath the earth, in the remnants of a long-dead civilization. She made her way into the ruins, her footsteps echoing in the silence. The air was thick with dust, and the walls of the crumbling buildings seemed to whisper secrets long forgotten. As she ventured deeper into the heart of the planet, she found a hidden underground facility, just as the document had described. Inside, the facility was still intact, its technology ancient but functional. Lyra worked quickly, connecting her ship's systems to the facility's data network. The deeper she dug, the more she uncovered. The Truth Project had been a vast undertaking, a network of devices designed to expose the darkest secrets of every species in the galaxy. And it wasn't just the humans who had created it. The project had been a collaboration, a joint effort between several ancient civilizations, all of them working together to ensure that the truth would never be hidden again. But as Lyra continued to search, she found something else, something that made her blood run cold. A final message, recorded by the human leaders who had started the project. The message was simple, but its implications were far-reaching. It revealed that the Truth Project was never intended to expose the truth to the galaxy. No, it was meant to expose the truth about the humans themselves. They had built the weapon not to reveal the lies of others, but to show the galaxy that they, too, had secrets that the galaxy's leaders feared more than anything. The truth was, humans weren't the villains they had been made out to be. They were the victims of a galaxy-wide conspiracy, a conspiracy designed to keep their true nature hidden. Lyra couldn't believe what she was seeing. The entire galaxy had been lied to for centuries, and the truth was finally being revealed. As she made her way back to her ship, Lyra knew that the galaxy would never be the same again. The truth had been exposed, and there was no going back. The power structures that had held the galaxy together were crumbling, and a new era was beginning, one in which the truth could no longer be hidden. Lyra's heart raced as she realized the weight of what she had done. She had uncovered the truth, and now the galaxy would have to face the consequences. The truth was revealed, and nothing would ever be the same. Humanity had always been seen as a species on the brink of destruction. Wars, disease, and environmental collapse had plagued Earth for centuries, and many believed that humanity's future was doomed. The galaxy, filled with advanced civilizations, watched with indifference as Earth teetered on the edge of annihilation. But there was something the galaxy didn't understand, something they had underestimated all along: humanity's resilience. Despite their flaws, humans had an uncanny ability to survive, adapt, and ultimately thrive. And now, as Earth stood on the cusp of a new era, humanity was ready to prove it once again. The story begins with a young scientist named Dr. Eva Sloan, whose work in genetic engineering was becoming a source of both awe and fear across the galaxy. Dr. Sloan had discovered something extraordinary, an untapped potential within human DNA that could unlock the secrets of human longevity and intelligence. Her research showed that humanity had the ability to evolve at an unprecedented rate, far beyond what anyone had imagined. With the right genetic modifications, humans could not only survive the challenges they faced, but could surpass the limitations of their own biology. The implications were immense, and the galaxy watched in silence, unsure of what this meant for the future. As Dr. Sloan continued her work, she received an unexpected visit from the Galactic Council. The representatives, composed of the most powerful species in the galaxy, had long kept a wary eye on humanity. They had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, but none had intrigued them as much as humanity. The Council was aware of Dr. Sloan's discoveries, and they had come to discuss the future, humanity's future. They wanted to know what she planned to do with her findings. Could humanity be trusted with this power, or would they become a new threat to the galaxy? At first, Dr. Sloan was hesitant to share the details of her research with the Council. After all, humanity had been oppressed for so long, and the idea that they might be controlled by the very entities that had once dismissed them was unsettling. But the Council's offer was too great to ignore. They'd promised resources, advanced technology, and a seat at the table with the galaxy's most powerful leaders. All they asked in return was that Dr. Sloan ensure humanity's evolution stayed in line with their vision, a vision of peace, control, and unity under the Council's rule. The young scientist found herself at a crossroads. Was this the opportunity of a lifetime for humanity, or was it a trap to subjugate her people? As the days passed, Dr. Sloan wrestled with her decision. She could see the potential of her research. She could imagine a world where humans no longer faced the hardships they once did. But she also saw the darker side of the Council's offer. They were powerful, and their influence over the galaxy was undeniable. If they had their way, humanity would become nothing more than a pawn in their vast empire. She had heard stories of other species that had once been given opportunities like this, only to find themselves enslaved by the very power they had once hoped would help them. The Council had no interest in true equality. They only cared about maintaining their own dominance. The weight of her choice grew heavier with each passing day, and Dr. Sloan found herself turning to her closest colleagues for advice. There was Ava, a brilliant biologist who had worked alongside her from the beginning. Ava believed that humanity should accept the Council's offer, arguing that with their advanced technology, they could safeguard humanity's future and ensure their place in the galaxy. But there was also Jax, a former soldier who had seen the brutality of the Council's forces firsthand. Jax warned that no species could ever trust the Council's promises. History had shown that once they had control, they would never let go. Dr. Sloan found herself torn between these two perspectives. On one hand, the opportunity to elevate humanity to the next level of evolution was enticing. On the other hand, the thought of giving the Council control over her people felt like a betrayal of everything she had worked for. Her research was meant to free humanity, not enslave them. It wasn't long before she realized that the true answer lay not in the hands of the Council, but in her own hands, and in the hands of humanity itself. Determined to find a solution that wouldn't compromise humanity's freedom, Dr. Sloan began working in secret. She expanded her research, delving deeper into the human genome and uncovering even more astonishing possibilities. What if humanity didn't need to rely on the Council or anyone else? What if they could unlock their full potential without any external influence? As she pieced together her findings, she discovered a hidden gene, a gene that had lain dormant in the human population for millennia. This gene, when activated, could give humans unparalleled strength, intelligence, and longevity. It was the key to humanity's future, and it was hidden within them all along. Dr. Sloan realized that if she could activate this gene on a global scale, humanity would no longer need the Council or any other force to dictate their future. They could become a self-sustaining, independent species, one capable of shaping their own destiny. But there was a catch. The process of unlocking this gene would require immense resources, and the risk of failure was high. It could cause chaos, even destruction, if not done correctly. Yet Dr. Sloan couldn't ignore the possibility. The risk was worth taking for the sake of humanity's freedom. With the Council breathing down her neck, Dr. Sloan moved forward with her plan, secretly gathering a group of trusted individuals to help her. Together, they began working in hidden laboratories, combining the best of human ingenuity with the latest scientific advancements. As they worked, the tension in the galaxy grew. Rumors spread of Dr. Sloan's secret project, and the Council's surveillance intensified. They knew something was happening, but they didn't know what. The day came when Dr. Sloan activated the gene, setting in motion the greatest transformation humanity had ever known. Across Earth, millions of people began to experience subtle but significant changes. Their bodies grew stronger, their minds sharper, and their lifespans extended. It was the dawn of a new era. An era where humanity would no longer be bound by the limitations of their biology. They were no longer the weak, frail species the galaxy had once feared. They had become something much more. The Council, however, did not take kindly to this unexpected turn of events. When they learned of Dr. Sloan's actions, they saw it as a direct challenge to their authority. They had underestimated humanity's potential, and now they feared the consequences. They moved swiftly, deploying their forces to Earth in an attempt to bring humanity to heel. But they had no idea what they were about to face. Humanity, with their newfound abilities, was ready to fight back. The battle that ensued would change the course of history. The galaxy would soon realize that humanity was not just another species to be controlled. They were a force of nature, capable of shaping their own future. As the Council's forces clashed with humanity's newfound strength, the true future of humanity began to unfold. It was a future not dictated by the powerful, but by the will of the people themselves.